I do, however, like to let some of the steam out because I don't want it to continue to cook. I would say that's kind of a pro tip. So I'm letting some of the steam out. And if I was not going to make burnt ends, I would just wrap this back up and put it in the cooler for, again, 4 to 5 hours to let it rest, let those juices redistribute throughout the brisket. It's going to stay nice and warm for your turn-ins or for your company. It'll give you time to make side dishes, dessert, whatever. You can see that the bark is set. It's just beautiful. It's the color I'm looking for. Again, the rub has a lot to do with it. Salt, pepper, garlic. There's no like sugar in there, but it looks beautiful to me. I'm going to leave it in the paper because I'm going to rewrap the flat after I take off the point. I'm going to separate the point from the flat. On the thick part where the point was, you can see how it's kind of split, and that's because fat runs through it, and that's why that's happened. I'm going to insert my knife. I let my knife guide through there. It'll slide through the fat so that there's no resistance. Simple as that. This is now the point. This is now the beautiful flat. I'm going to get rid of the excess fat because this is from that big chunk that I said felt like a baseball. Okay, we don't need that. I'm going to take the rub that we had left over before and put it on the cut side because we want some flavors to get into those burnt ends. Just pat it on all the way around. And we're going to take this whole piece and we're going to put it back on the smoker. It's going to take another hour or two. I like to let these come up to 212 degrees internal temperature approximately. I want the bark to get darker than this for a burn end. So it might even take 3 hours, it depends. But I'm going to put this back on. I'm going to rewrap this flat because this is going to be turned in for our slices. And now we're going to go into the rest mode. It's already steamed out, so it's not going to continue to cook. And this is going to go into the cooler for as long as I can let it be there. It'd be nice to get 4 or 5 hours on it, and it'll stay nice and warm. Again, if you don't have a cooler, you can even wrap it in like a moving blanket. That'll do just fine. So it's ready to go. Now I'm going to talk about the brisket burn ends. We cut off the point. It's been on the smoker for about another 2-3 hours. The internal temperature I'll check. It's about 214 degrees, which is fine. It seems like that's overcooked, but not for the burn ends. We'll take that off. I have a half pan here. The darker the side is the side that I'm going to use for the top side. You can take an electric knife to get your cubes out of it. I'm just going to use this sharp knife today. I like about, I don't know, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch cubes. And you can feel that this is just, it's incredible. So I cut the cubes across like this. In a competition box, I usually put 8 cubes in there, so I'm going to cut more than we need because I always like to pick the best. I cut with the grain there. Now I'm going to cut against the grain, being careful not to disrupt the rub on top. It feels so tender. I could eat it right now. Take a spatula, put this into the half pan, keeping the dark side up. The reason I don't do the beef broth first is because obviously the meat's gonna go into the pan, the liquid's gonna push up, and it might go over the top of those burnt ends, and I don't want that to happen. I want the dry rub to stay on there as a nice bark. So I carefully add the beef broth till it goes about, I don't know, a third of the way up on each of the cubes, just a quarter way up. Careful not to disrupt the top of it. I do want to tell you about an option. If you wrapped your brisket in foil, it's going to render those juices versus the juice going right into the paper. And I take those juices, put it in a degreaser, degrease them, and I take that juice, add it to my beef broth, and that goes into the pan. But today we use the butcher paper, so we're using straight up beef broth. And make sure you use the low sodium beef broth, because there's plenty of salt in that dry rub. You don't need to have it too salty. So we're gonna seal this up. Again, put it back on the smoker. At 275 for about an hour, and then we'll be ready to go. Steamy hot. For a brisket box, just for competition's sake, I'll tell you, I like to have a minimum of 6 slices. I like to angle them like this so you can see the smoke ring. Take note, I injected the brisket and there are no injection marks on here. And as I showed you, that technique is to draw out your injection needle, and that will help from getting you those puddles or pools that you really don't want to have, because there'll be like gray dots in there. And the judges will pick up on that as well. So I'll place these in the box like that. I'll pick out my favorite burn ends, and I'll put them at the base. I always put a minimum of 6. Sometimes I'll throw in an extra for good luck. And that is my competition brisket.